Romans 13:1 says, "Obey the government, for God is the one who has put it there. There is no government anywhere that God has not placed in power." So those who refuse to obey the law of the land are refusing to obey God, and punishment will follow. So earlier today, I was out riding. I ride a motorcycle, and it's common for me to, and I think it's common for a lot of people to, you're just driving, right? And you don't really pay attention to the speed limit sometimes. I mean, I'm out riding. If I see an open stretch of road in front of me, I'm making a turn, I'm coming out of a turn, I see that open stretch. Sometimes I like to open it up a little bit, just not think about a speed limit or whatever. And, I might look down eventually, but oh, I'm going like 55 and like a 40 or something, or 45 and a 30 or something like that. And it's like, I don't know, I guess the spirit kind of pressed on me, made an impression in me, like you should really start obeying the speed limit. Like the speed limit is a law, right? It's a law of the law of the land, the law of this land, at least in America, right? It's there for a reason. Like it's the governing authorities basically rules. And it's like it's so common for me to just, you know whatever, if I see a cop, I'll slow down. But I'm not hurting anybody speeding, going 50 and a 45 or something like that. But I don't think God wants us to live like that. As believers, we should obey the speed limits at basically all the time, right? I mean, we shouldn't. I don't think God wants us to live in a way that we're only doing the right thing because we're afraid of getting caught, or we see that cop, we see, oh, let me slow down. I see a cop, I see a speed trap coming up here. I got to slow down now, or else I'll get a ticket. Like, no, I mean, if you're doing the speed limit all the time, you don't have anything to worry about, right? In fact, further down, let me see, Romans, like further down that passage in Romans 13, it says, "For the one in authority is God's servant for your good." So the speed limits are a good thing in a sense. They identify, basically a right to life. Like you don't want to have just this place where there are no speed limits and everybody can just go 100 everywhere. Like, there's certain protections that speed limits provide to people, and that's why we have them. So continuing on, but if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. So it's not necessary to be afraid if you're doing the right thing. Like we know, like, oh yeah, the cops coming, let me slow down. We're doing the wrong thing, so we need to adjust our behavior. But no, God wants us to live right all the time, and not only for, out of fear of punishment, but just to glorify Him. So it verse 5 says that, "Therefore it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience." If you want your conscience to be good before God, you want to say, "God, how do I glorify you today, even in my driving?" You say, well, you don't speed, obey the laws, obey the appropriate laws, and don't think like, speeding is just this trivial thing. No, it's a law of the land, and the Lord wants us to obey the law of the land. So I guess I guess going back, I was driving or whatever, and I tried to kind of implement that strategy. I was like, I'm going to do the speed limit. If the speed limit is 35, I'm going to do up to 35. I'm going to try to obey the speed limit. And boy, it was awkward. I was just cruising along, and I'm seeing all these cars are passing me, like cars that I usually keep up with, but now everybody's passing me. I see cars in my rear view mirror, like they're tailing behind me, and I'm like, oh gosh, these people probably think I'm just, something's wrong. I don't know, like, what's this guy doing the speed limit? Like, what are you doing? But it's weird because I'm actually doing the right thing, but people behind me, they're probably thinking this guy's silly. He's doing the speed limit. Like something's must be wrong with him. And I think that can kind of transfer over to like if you're doing the right thing in today's society, people look at you crazy like you're doing the like, what are you doing? Like what, Patrick? What? You don't drink? You don't smoke? You're actually waiting for marriage to have sex? What? Oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? And yeah, man, like people look at you funny for doing the right thing. And it just that's just how I felt when I was doing the speed limit. And it was kind of hard at first, but I adjusted, and eventually it got to the point where it's not that bad if you just don't care about what people think about you. If you're doing the right thing, if your conscience is good between you and God, you can say I'm glorifying God in doing this, in obeying the speed limit, even though, and in reality, you don't know what other people are thinking about you. They probably don't think nothing of you at all, but in your mind, you're kind of thinking like, you create these scenarios where people will just automatically say, oh, what's this guy? Oh, you're crazy. Go faster. Do this, do that. But it's all mind games. Like once I got to that point where I'm like, I don't necessarily care anymore. If you want to pass me, pass me. If not, you'll just be behind me. But if you just go and you live your life doing the right things in a way that you can have a clear conscience towards God, so that you can answer to him and say, God, I did the right thing in doing that, in not speeding, in obeying the laws, then I mean, at the end of the day, that's good. You don't have to answer to anybody but him. So I encourage you today to and this isn't just applying to speeding specifically, that's just that kind of that was my situation today, but that can apply to anything. And now, of course, you're just like, well, what if the government tells me to, I don't know, what if the government says that this thing is okay when God clearly says it's not? Of course, you should obey God over the law of the land, because there are plenty of laws that aren't morally correct according to God. Of course, we are not to obey such laws as that. There's certain laws that you might find trivial, but they're here for our protection. God wants us to obey them. God has put governing authorities in place himself according to Romans 13. So it be in our best interest, if we want to have a clear conscience towards God at the end of the day, then we would need to obey the law of the land.